When you experience trauma and disability, I like to say that the body is not a welcoming place anymore. You have a lot of grief to process, a lot of sadness. So we tend to distract ourselves, dissociate ourselves. And, yoga, it's a very compassionate tool to bring ourselves back, you know. And this bringing back to your body to process anything that is there to process, it's one of the most powerful things there is, like healing happening there. So yoga from this point of view goes much more beyond than just the physical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where my work lies.
Welcome to a Curious Yogi podcast. I'm your host, Bobby, joined by living masters and awakening friends. We're here to illuminate your practice as we explore what it means to walk the yogi's path, unfold peace from within, and live the vision of oneness. I'm so delighted you're here. Now let's get curious. Welcome back to another episode of a Curious Yogi podcast. This week, I am coming to you with a live recorded episode in Rodrigo Souza's living room here in Malmö. I never knew I lived in the same city as like the coolest yogi ever. And Rodrigo is living yoga in every sense of the word. This episode was amazing. And if you have a chance, I totally invite you to head on over to YouTube and watch the video because his living room is also super cool. So head over, check it out. But before you jump into the episode, I want to introduce Rodrigo and let you know a little bit about him to lay the context for the episode. So Rodrigo is an adaptive and accessible yoga teacher, and he is passionate about helping people who have experienced trauma and disabilities through yoga. Rodrigo himself faced significant challenges. He suffered a severe spinal cord injury due to a fall, which left him completely paralyzed from the chest down. However, he didn't let his condition define him. Instead, he decided to take charge of his recovery and optimize his long-term well-being. Through his Allihopa accessible and adaptive virtual yoga studio, Rodrigo has created a safe and welcoming space for people worldwide with diverse abilities to practice yoga and find healing. He also teaches for several nonprofits, community centers, and newly injured people in an active rehabilitation center in Sweden. He also leads a monthly ambassador mentorship program for accessible yoga teachers, emphasizing creating a robust and supportive community for those seeking to bring yoga to marginalized groups. The program is designed to infuse yoga careers with purpose and meaning by serving the underserved with love and compassion. So that is Rodrigo in a nutshell. We go into so much in this episode, just talking about his own journey with yoga and with life and his injury and the total healing power of yoga. And something that I loved about this conversation is that again and again, Rodrigo and I were able to go back to what is the essence of yoga. Yes, it's a tool to heal the body, the mind, the spirit, and come back to that wholeness. But so much of it happens through the stillness and the silence and the subtle aspects of yoga. We talk about adaptive yoga and ableism and bias and all these things that really, really lit me up and helped me reflect on my own biases that I wasn't aware of. We talk about the industry of yoga and its challenges and what can we do to take yoga back. And I loved this point. He talked about rest as resistance, and that is so, that's good. I needed to hear that right now. And just the freedom and the joy that comes in living these teachings of yoga. So such an epic episode, and I'm really excited to share it with you. I dropped in the show notes ways to connect with Rodrigo, whether you're a yoga teacher wanting to do a teacher training to provide adaptive yoga in your community, or you're somebody that is living with any kind of disability or trauma. I highly, highly recommend connecting with Rodrigo. He is just super cool. So enjoy the episode. And if you haven't had a chance to head on over to the Patreon page and become a member, even a free member, I invite you to do so because the community is growing and it's just such a beautiful place to share our sadhana and all the ups and downs. And I'm super excited to now be offering 2 live stream meetups a month. One is our monthly Curious Yogi satsang and study group where we just chat, we meditate, we dig deeper into the topics from the podcast. And the second live stream is actually a live stream episode that Patreon members get the chance to either just tune in and watch the live episode or participate by asking questions and giving comments to the guests for my Good Company episodes. And the thing that's special about the Good Company episodes is that it's always guests that have been on the show before, and they're my friends. So it's really just an opportunity, exactly like the title says, to be in good company. It's such an important part of our sadhana to be surrounded by the right people. And I just really wanted to find another way to offer that to you amazing podcast listeners. So head over to patreon.com/a curious yogi podcast. Join us there and hope to see you and meet you in the space. See you on the other side. Enjoy this delightful episode with Rodrigo. Enjoy this delightful conversation with Rodrigo. So, welcome.
Thank you.
I mean, you already welcomed me because we're in your house, but
Yeah.
welcome to a Curious Yogi podcast.
And welcome to my living room.
Thanks. I love this.
Yeah,
It's a good message.
it is. It is. I like to tell my students that life is with them, life is not against them. And that they are enough, that they are loved. They don't need to go and seek for it anywhere. Validation. So it's a good message. You're loved. I teach yoga here in this living room, and I use that as my background.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's the perfect background for a yoga podcast convo also.
Yeah.
So I have so much deep things I think that we can get into, even exactly like what you just said, that there's so much depth to go into with everything that you know and who you are. But I think just to lay the context for the listeners,
Yeah.
to tell a little bit about your backstory, who you are, how you got into yoga, like just starting there.
Beautiful. My name is Rodrigo Souza. I go with the pronouns he and him. I was born and raised in Brazil. When I was 23 years old, I moved to London. I study theater. I have a background in arts. And I used to work with music and as a bartending as well. And I used to drink a lot. I used to work on the weekends. And one girlfriend of mine came to me one day and said, Rodrigo, I think yoga would be good for you so you can sweat out the booze that you drink. I was about 24, 25. And I started practicing Bikram yoga, like in Kirkby Lane, where I used to live in Northwest London. And I fell in love with the practice, so I got into yoga in my middle-20s. It seems long ago now. I'm 43, by the way, 44. And I practiced for like 9 years, and fasting forward time a little bit. I moved to Sweden in 2012. And after 2 years I was living here, I had a fall accident. I was hiking in Brazil, And I fell from an embankment, a small cliff, and I broke my back, and I became paralyzed from the chest down. I use a full-time manual wheelchair, and something very magical happened because in my rehabilitation center, like 2 weeks after my rehabilitation had started, a physiotherapist came to the room where I was, and she was showing me some stretch that I have complained about pain. And one stretch that she showed me was the wind relief pose to pull my knee towards my chest. That would decrease my muscle spasticity. And when she showed me that, I told her, I was like, this is yoga, because that is the pose number 14 and the Bikram sequence. And then I told her, I have practiced before. And then she smiled at me, and then she left the room. Before she left, she said, I don't know if it's yoga, but it will help you. And I reached out to my computer that was in the bedside, and I Googled yoga for paraplegics. And I found this teacher called Matthew Sanford, who runs a nonprofit called Mind Body Solutions in Minneapolis. And he also has a spinal cord injury. And he has studied with Iyengar. So he's like a Jedi in adaptive yoga. He knows how to work with the subtle body, and create asana variations for anyone. I reached out to him, to his nonprofit, and then I was very honest back then. I was like, listen, I just broke my back, never gonna walk again. I'm 33. I'm going to the dark night of the soul. Please help. Very honest. And he sent me a DVD and some books, and then I have the grace of incorporating adaptive yoga into my rehabilitation process, which it took like not so long. I come back to life really fast afterwards, and I realized that I was one in a million, because my peers, folks who experience these traumas, these injuries, they rely on the medical model. They don't have access to holistic practice, to integrative practice, like I used to call mindfulness, yoga, meditation. And I became so passionate about it. And at the same time, I have this deep sense of responsibility to make yoga accessible to this population that I represent. So I decided to become a yoga teacher. And I've been working very hard on that since. And I've been training teachers. I've been serving folks with disabilities everywhere in the world. I have a virtual yoga studio, writing a book about it. Something that's has become like a life purpose.
Wow. It's pretty extraordinary to think of the things that happen in life.
Yeah.
Like you said, you went through the dark night of the soul, at 33, reckoning with the fact that you'll never walk again.
Yeah.
And then somehow it's guided you to be living in this purposeful way, serving in many ways. I was reading on your website, and there's a testimonial from some guy from New York. I think maybe his name was David.
Yeah.
And reading what he said about the impact of practicing yoga with you,
Yeah.
I gotta, it made me emotional because
Yeah.
it was so powerful to see
Yeah.
how yoga and the way that you're sharing it impacts people's lives.
Yeah. It is something that it brings my life a lot of purpose, because it does serve a lot of people, And when you experience trauma and disability, I like to say that the body is not a welcoming place anymore. You have a lot of grief to process, a lot of sadness. So we tend to distract ourselves, dissociate ourselves. And, yoga, it's a very compassionate tool to bring ourselves back, And this bringing back to your body, to process anything that is there to process, it's one of the most powerful things there is, healing happening there, So yoga from this point of view goes much more beyond than just the physical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I my work lies, My work lies into trying to create a safe space where my student can compassionately and kindly revisit, themselves again. And if there is something that to be lived, to be experienced, to be embraced, this might happen, It's like going back home.
Yeah.
Like, life can be difficult, but there is a place inside of you that is always in peace. It's guide them through back there,
I think it's so like amazing and extraordinary that, in practicing yoga with a disability or with a spinal cord injury, like you're also showing and like demonstrating what yoga really is.
Yeah.
Because it's, so often thought of as just a physical practice. And as you and I both know, and many of the listeners of this podcast, that the physical part of yoga is just one small sliver.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we negate it, like
No.
you said, with your first like revelation and wind relieving pose,
Yeah.
but how it's actually a pathway into like that space which we all experience, whether we're walking or sitting or young or old. It's like universal.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in the westernized version of yoga, we tend to think that yoga is the postures and everything, but goes really beyond that. And I even say that, the fact that I come back to life really fast after experiencing trauma, huge trauma like spinal cord injury, was not because I was doing like different shapes with my body,
Yeah.
but was that when I was doing the shapes, I was doing them consciously. I was in my body doing that, I wasn't distract myself to what I was feeling. Like, we tend to do when you experience trauma, I was like revisiting myself and I was feeling what was there to be felt. Even though it was difficult, I had courage, I had compassion, And I think that compassion lives very close to acceptance. The point that I stop feeling sorry for myself and start feeling compassion, I saw myself in another light, that I start accepting my situation as it is. And not try to take me to other places where there'll be judgment or there'll be shame,
Yeah, it's so powerful to like hear how, perspective and acceptance is the sort of key that we all hold. Because one could say, look at Rodrigo and say, I could never come out of like that kind of trauma, or I could never come to that realization. But it's like you are like inspiration and a beacon, I'm sure, for other people that have experienced spinal cord injury, but also for anybody that goes through trauma or challenge or grief or despair. And it's like, how do we pull ourselves out of that? It's with, like you said, the compassion, the acceptance, the awareness
Yeah,
of this human experience, which exists on a spectrum.
yeah, yeah. And it's exactly that. It's a human experience. Today I see spinal cord injury has something that has gifted me to deepen my human experience, and it's all there is. Sometimes it's not very comfortable, but it's still a human experience, and it needs to be felt. It needs to be lived, right? And yoga is a tool for that. Mindfulness is a tool for that.
And also the kind of like ironic beauty in the fact that having your injury is what brought you deeper into your experience of your yoga practice, deeper into your experience of self.
Yeah, it did, because like it took me beyond the physicality of the practice, Bobby. I remember that I used to go to Bikram yoga studio. I love Bikram yoga.
Is it like the most hardcore yoga?
Yeah, and it's like I used to go there, sweat my ass out, drink my 1.5 liter of water. I felt brand new afterwards, you know. But that was it. Was very physical, was very like detoxifying, but it lacked a bit of depth somehow, you know. And with the adaptive yoga, I'm paralyzed from the chest down now, right? So the movement, the muscular activation is very limited, you know. So I needed to deep dive inwards. I need to study the other limbs. I need to go somewhere. I need to go to the breath, to the subtle body, to the sensations, to the cautious, to everything that would deepen my practice as well, which was like an opportunity that I never had before. That I was like, brought it to this place where I could, deepen my practice and therefore deepen my human experience, which I'm very grateful for, you know, very grateful for. It's been it's been a while. My accident was in 2014, and it's been a huge journey. And I think like, would I change, everything that I have gone through, you know, would I be the old me hiking mountains, traveling? I would love, but it's like with the mind that I have now and the understanding I have now, I wouldn't go back. I would say no, I'm cool with it. I'm all right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which like not a lot of people can say.
No. It does sucks though, I'm not glamorizing having a disability. It sucks a bit, I deal with chronic pain, chronic anxiety, PTSD, but the mental resilience that was acquired during this process is huge. I realized that we are much more capable of things that we think of.
Yeah, it's like, again, it goes to the point that yoga and wellness, or who we think we are, how we perceive the world, it's not about like what you can do with
Yeah.
your body. It's
Yeah.
like it's your inner space.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how we access that inner space. Many people don't have those tools.
No.
And I'm sure many people that experience trauma in this way, or spinal cord injury, or any kind of, like, yoga isn't so much in like those spaces of healing, perhaps, as it could be, which maybe you can shed a little bit of light about your adaptive yoga and where it is. I know you're teaching yoga teachers, but is it also in rehabilitation centers?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I teach in a rehabilitation center called Active Rehabilitating here out of Sweden. We teach yoga for newly injured folks, folks who has just experienced spinal cord injury. It's a very meaningful work. I teach for nonprofits as well around the world, and but my main work these days lies on educating teachers to do the same thing. I'm passionate about taking the yoga out of the studios and bring them to the community. It fills my heart with joy to know that there is an adaptive yoga teacher in Northeast Brazil right now teaching folks with disabilities inside the church.
nice.
Yeah. That people with a disability come out of the house, go somewhere, breathe, and move together, build community together. I educated about 200 teachers last year, 70 just in Brazil. And, folks are teaching yoga these days in elderly care homes, nursing homes, hospitals, associations, community centers, halfway houses. And it's like just one of the, one of the most beautiful things I have experienced, right? It is like something that I wake up every morning feeling like that there is work to be done, and like I have like so much passion towards it, and there there is where my work lies these days. Because one thing that I realize as well is that if you'd like to become a yoga teacher nowadays, you generally go through a 200 YTT or 300 YTT, and you somehow learn to serve one type of body, and generally is the skinny body, very flexible, which for me goes completely against one of the first principles of yoga, ahimsa. A teacher is in front of like a 10, 20 students, and they expect everyone to have the same ability and to do whatever you want to do. So like we are trying to make the practice more trauma informed and change it a little bit. Instead of the pose goes to the student goes to the pose, and to make it more accessible, not only to folks with disabilities, but for folks who has a non-normative body as well.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, you said a lot there. I was like, yes, 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 yes. No, but I think it's so important because many of the listeners of this podcast are yoga teachers that have been through a 200-hour teacher training where maybe, on the physical side, it teaches, like you said, this a certain way of teaching asana and things. And it also doesn't really go as far as it could with the philosophy and the inner practices, the more subtle practices. So I'm just thinking, for those that are listening, when thinking about teaching or sharing yoga, like obviously it makes sense. Like, yeah, yoga doesn't belong only in a yoga studio.
No.
And yet that's primarily in the Western countries where it exists, unfortunately. It's exclusive not only to bodies, but to financial place status. And, it's kind of become the opposite of what it's intended, which is, liberatory potential for all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for those that are listening, that are yoga teachers, that are sharing yoga, like where do we begin in thinking about making yoga more adaptable and more accessible?
I think we got to educate ourselves, specialize ourselves, and learn to create variations of postures and learn how to teach, all the 8 limbs. We need to go there. We need to learn the yamas. We need to learn the niyamas, incorporate them in our daily lives. We need to think outside the box, let's say, because yoga, it's for everyone. Yoga doesn't discriminate anybody. Asana does. Asana is the one that is the one limb that is exclusive, but yoga is not. So, for example, if you teach like an older adult, right? Which practice you will offer this person? If you teach like a pregnant woman, which practice would you offer? Like, we need to honor the uniqueness of everyone. We need to learn how to adapt the practice. What is good for you might not be good for me. And we need to make sure that everyone has a place at the table, and there is yoga for everyone. We just need to expand our knowledge and learn how to serve the right tools for everybody, which is, studying, right? A yoga teacher should like keep on educating themselves, keep on being curious. I love your podcast name, by the way. This is how we gotta be. Like, be curious. Be like, have that thirst of knowledge to keep on educating ourselves.
Yes, we have to educate ourselves. That's what you were saying. Yeah, I think it's important for any person in their yoga journey, like that we are approaching everything in our life with curiosity.
Yeah.
Like including being a yoga teacher. It's like, are we teaching or are we sharing and creating that space of yoga, like you said, with living yoga, living the yamas and niyamas.
Yes.
Like, not like to live one out of like one little sliver of yoga and say this is yoga. It's just like limiting not only our experience of yoga, but the outwardly perception of what yoga is. Like the fact that many people think I'm not flexible, I can't do yoga. Like, you know, when you hear that, it's
I hear that so much. I hear that so often, so often.
it's so, but you know, it just displays how much we've sort of gone in that way. And, you know, yoga is now this whole big industry and fine. But it's like, now we, the people, like you said, we need to be doing yoga in the churches for the community and those that are disabled. We need to be making it accessible for those that are, like you said, have a non-normative body or that are financially dependent on, you know, it's like, but somehow it's gone so the other way.
I think the white supremacy and capitalism has a big finger in that, you know. And we need to dismantle that somehow. You know, we need to go beyond that. You know, because like what we see is like, you know, there is a lot of money involved on it. You know, and as we live in an ableism society as well, and disabled folks, they are seen mainly as a second-class citizens. We don't pay tax. We don't work as much as, you know. So, like, you know, things are not very catered for us, tailored for us. You know, we're not consumers, right? And the yoga industry, I really don't like to use these two words in the same sentence, yoga industry, but I got to go there. The yoga industry, you know, they're going to sell who can pay, who can do, you know. And for you to have a picture meditating won't sell anything. You need to have a picture in front of a waterfall and a really expensive legging, putting your feet behind the neck, you know, to make it like, how do you say, appealing, you know, to the consumers, right? Which means like the whole philosophy, the whole practice became like an industry, basically. And this is how it is these days. And there is a lot of work to be done there to, like, you know, break these narratives. You know, one narrative is to actually take the yoga out of this, you know, and bring it back to the community as it was. And the other narrative is like bring representativity in all the space, you know. Have like fat yoga teachers, black yoga teachers, queer yoga teachers, disabled yoga teachers, you know, and truly make the practice accessible to everyone, normalize everyone, you know.
Yeah, it's so true. It does seem though, it's like, yeah, the industry in that way, it kind of makes me want to like, just like turn my head and kind of put my head in the sand. But then in the other sense, it's like, actually it's so inspiring to see how much potential there is
Of course.
to like act and live yoga in a way that is like in allyship with everybody and actually, you know, and my teacher, he said, yeah, the teachings of yoga, they are universal and they're available to all, but not everybody is attracted to yoga. So then of course, not everybody comes to yoga, but for those that are in those underrepresented groups, and there is some deep calling or spiritual inspiration inside, it's like so heartbreaking to think that somebody would be deterred from moving towards the yogic path because of the way that it's misrepresented. So in that way, it's like, we the people, like, you know, like, we have to take action. Like we have to have conversations like these, especially for those that are listening that are in my group, like the white women, the Karens in the yoga studio. Like we need to make sure that we are properly, like you said, educating ourselves and how are we representing yoga in our communities and the yoga studios. If we're teaching in yoga studios with the Lululemon leggings and the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. There's so much work to be done.
Yeah, definitely. Have you, like, in your path on becoming a yoga teacher and getting into different yoga spaces, have you faced discrimination or like a
Yeah.
judgment of being, you know,
Ableism. Yeah, a
okay.
lot.
Can you explain like a little bit about ableism?
Yeah, ableism is a discrimination against people with disabilities. It brings the fact that people of disabilities are less than the non-disabled people. It's like racism or sexism or ageism. And we live in an ableism society, you know. And of course, ableism exists in a yoga setting as well. One thing that I teach my students, like yoga teachers who want to serve this population, is like they need to be aware of their own ableism, you know. For example, they can never feel sorry for their students just because they have a disability. You know, I have received the PTI so often every time I go to a yoga space, you know. And if the teacher has pity for the students, you are really in an equal power dynamic over there. You already put yourself above that person. You know, we need to meet people where they are. We need to see through the diagnosis. We need to see through the disability. You know, and coming back to that place, right? Because if you leave the practice, you know, you know that there is a collective consciousness where we always come back to, where the other is not even other anymore.
Yeah, like I totally thought of that when you said that. It's like if we as the individual or like the yoga teacher or the yoga practitioner aren't actually applying the principles of yoga, which is oneness and like
Yeah.
you said, universality, then of course we will just perpetuate duality and division. And that's, you know, we've seen like the world we live in now is so
Yeah.
polarized. But like how and where do we get to that state? We have to practice yoga within. And it's like, you know, only then can we approach with that compassion, the ableism, you know, like we said, that we need to unwind out of our minds and habits and then also meet
Yeah.
everybody in that space. But like that's like real work. You know, like you can like, yeah, do a handstand, do the like whatever, this posture, that bind, this thing. But it's like that's kind of like the easy stuff.
That is the easy stuff.
Like the other stuff is like, ooh, that's like real work.
Yeah, it is real work because, as I mentioned, we are conditioned in this way. Like I'm 44 years old, so it's like 44 years old of conditioning that I need to dismantle to my, you know, to my person. And that requires a lot of self-awareness. And that requires, it's like a lot of shadow work. It's not comfortable to go there, Bobby. It's easier to do a headstand, you know, for the likes than I'll actually be in silence and like, hang on a minute, let me check my behavior. Is it really mine? You know?
Yeah, or just continually going to that Bikram yoga class over and over and over again. Like just before I came here, I was teaching at a hot studio, and it's so interesting. At the hot studio, the most physical practices you see in Shavasana, those people in general have the most difficult time laying still with their eyes closed because it's so going the extreme other way.
Yeah.
Like I know you could see an advanced yogi when you see that person being able to close their eyes and breathe and
Be quiet.
be quiet and, you know, be aware and be soft and kind of, but like, it just kind of,
Yeah.
you see that it actually is the advanced practice.
Yeah.
Is being still with oneself,
Yeah.
going inward, going beyond the limitations of the body and mind. Because actually, like, having the human body is a limitation. We're confined. Like, what is yoga? Getting beyond. So your limitation is there. Like, yes, it's like you just want to break free of sort of the whole confusion of this human experience. And like, how do we do it? It's like the stillness,
The stillness.
like you said, the subtle body,
Yeah.
those deeper things.
Invite the silence in. Like, You know, I like to bring that, especially nowadays with a lot of stimulation. When was the last time you were actually in silence? You went for a walk without listening to a podcast or to music. You know, everyone today is so busy.
So busy. It's crazy.
It's
And like I myself included. I'm just like, how did I get in this spiral? But it's like the world is just kind of in chaos, and it's
Yeah.
like a kind of
Yeah.
snowball that pulls everything in with it.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, anyway, speaking personally, like the only reprieve
Yeah.
is sitting in meditation.
Yeah.
Like it's the only thing that like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Me and Lua, my girlfriend, we have we have a non-negotiable that is lie down after lunch every day and do at least 20 minutes or half an hour of yoga nidra. And most of the time, that 20 minutes, that half an hour yoga nidra becomes a nap as
Yeah.
well. And it's one of the best things we have done. I'm actually reading a book about that as well called Rest is Resistance, where, it shows the importance of disconnecting somehow and coming within, with that as well. And having time to integrate and process everything.
Rest is resistance. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Because it's resisting the chaos and the duality of the
Yeah,
world, which
yeah.
will only kind of mirror that to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So how do we mirror the inner stillness? Like,
Yeah.
amazing. Also, I'm like, okay, me and Simon need to get that on.
Yeah.
Yoga nidra and a nap after lunch.
Yeah.
In Brazil, though, do you have like this siesta culture?
We kind of like in some places we do, but it's not very popular as Spain and Italy.
Okay.
But in Brazil and some places are too hot, so it's like we do. But
Not a yoga nidra, not a yoga siesta.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
We do that. We do that. It's like we finish lunch, like let's go, boom, and then we break the day in two. Right. I do that because I have studied with a mindfulness teacher called Jamala Birch, because I deal with chronic pain. And one of the ways of managing chronic pain is to break your day into chunks of rest, of self-care, and I do that. I stay in my wheelchair for like 3 hours, and then I go lie down a little bit, and then I do some more work. Sometimes I go place, then I come back and I need to lie down. And the Nidra sessions are the ones that, whatever I am, I make sure I get them. And one, it is one of the best practice, because you always come back within.
Are you also teaching yoga nidra practices in your teacher training?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Maybe down the road.
Yeah, probably down the road. In my trainings, I mainly teach about inclusive language. We talk about ableism a lot, and then I talk about how to make pranayama, mindfulness accessible to folks with disabilities, and we spend a lot of time working with the subtle body and learning how to create variations of asana for someone in the bed, for someone in a wheelchair, for someone who are paralyzed from the neck down, for the chest down, or for example, someone who experiences stroke, they have hemiplegia, how to facilitate the practice for that person, how to facilitate a practice for someone who has multiple sclerosis, for example, that doesn't have a good balance, how to make the practice accessible to folks with disabilities. We spend a lot of time in that, and then how to make sure you create a safe space, free of bias, where your disabled student, can feel the benefits of the practice, where you can make sure you create the container where change might happen.
Can you shed a little bit of light or give a few examples of like inclusive language and where maybe uninclusive language is being used?
All right, inclusive language, for example, let's say that you are giving a class in a community center or in an elderly care home where you have like old adult with Parkinson's, with Alzheimer, full in a wheelchair, you know. A command language, the way we use nowadays, would be, for example, we do like a sun breath, which was you raise your arms, inhale, exhale, bring the arms down, right? A command language, the way we use these days, you would kill that. You'd say it's like raise your arms up, you know. Inclusive language would be like, for example, raise your arms until it's comfortable for you. Because we're giving power to your student. Your student will have an introspective moment with themselves, and then they will know consciously how far they can raise. And it's going to be inclusive because everyone has a different ability. The asana, the movement, the warm-up will look different for everyone. You know, everyone will be part of the group. You know, and it's like a little thing that you can change and makes a huge difference. Another thing that I love doing is to offer my students agency and give them variations. For example, at the beginning of the practice, I tell them that the practice belongs to them, and then I give variations like I teach them how to ground themselves, you know, in Tadasana, for example. They can ground through the sitting bones or they can ground through the feet. I teach them the sensation of grounding. And then I tell them, you can be in Tadasana throughout the whole practice if you want. You know, being grounded is also yoga. I like to say that any movement you do consciously is yoga. And I like to offer the option of visualization as well. So the student start with the practice with the agents that they can stay in Tadasana, that they can use the breath as an anchor, that they can visualize the practice, or they can, you know, do the movement if they feel comfortable, but they can also come out of the movement at any time. So it's like, it's about empowering our students, most of all, you know, and make sure that we create that enhanced self-awareness in our students so they will decide what is best for them at that particular moment. The yoga teacher is just creating the space and offering the, you know, the movement, but we're not forcing anybody to anything. And the language that we use to do that, it's very trauma-informed, you know. We are suggesting things. We are inviting them to do things, you know. There is no command language. There is no, like, we are like creating a space where that introspective, like, curiosity can happen in our student body so they will decide for themselves how far they can go.
And that's like universal also.
Yeah.
Like that's using language that benefits all.
Yes.
It's not language that benefits some,
Yeah.
say one that's disabled, but actually benefiting
Everyone. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or in each posture,
Yeah.
because it's relative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is something I have heard so many times. When I do trainings, I do in-person trainings and I do online trainings. And we have like a Google form, a feedback form. And I ask my, you know, my students like, what did you like the most about the training? And a lot of people say, it's like, Rodrigo, I came to your training to learn how to serve disabled folks, but it's like, I'm going to serve everyone. Because that can be applied to everyone. You know, it's like turning the practice of yoga more humanized. I like to say that we serve whoever is in front of you. It's being there all the time, Bobby. You know, you come out of that, okay, I'm going to create a sequence in my mind. I'm going to show up and I'm going to teach that sequence, and then I'm going to expect everybody to have the same stamina level, the same stability, you know, the like the same ability that I do, and get into the same shape. It's meeting your student where they are at the present moment and honor what they have. And you have the toolbox, then you're going to offer the tools exactly for that person. Who do I teach? You teach whoever is in front of you. Who do you serve? You serve whoever is in front of you. If the person in front of you has its ability, you're going to teach them. If the person in front of you lives in a larger body, is an amputee, is in a wheelchair, is an older adult, you're going to meet them where they are.
Beautiful. And like that just invites so much freedom, which like that's what yoga is.
Yeah.
It's about freedom. And it's like if we're putting it in a box like anything, confining it, constraining it, and then we're also limiting ourselves as those that are sharing yoga, but also limiting those that are wanting to take yoga on and learn more about yoga, like to give the autonomy to feel free in one's practice. Like that's liberating.
It's liberating, Bob. You know why? Because I'm talking to a disabled person point of view here, because there are not many places in society where we get to have agency, where we get to take decisions for ourselves, So the things that you get in the yoga class, in the yoga setting, the power that you have, that empowerment of have that embodied experience and know what is good for you at that particular moment, you're going to take that for life. It is liberating.
Do you think like that experience was something like going back to when you had your injury that brought you back so quickly and like, catapulted you into where you are now in your life?
Of course. Yeah. That's a sure thing, That's a sure thing. That's a sure thing. I like to call that part of my life like hugging a cactus.
Okay. Okay.
Because I was so depressed, and I used to cry so often, and wasn't a very comfortable place to visit. But like every day I was going there, like hugging a cactus slowly. How do you hug a cactus? You go with gentleness. Sometimes I used to cry in Shavasana all the time. Boom, the silence come in, the gravity pulls me down, I cry. It's too much grief, But like revisiting this grief, hugging the cactus, there was a time that's like, okay, you're here. There is joy here as well, by the way. They coexist, So like you become, aware of it, and you've got a choice. You're not so reactive anymore, You don't run away from it anymore. It's a very, very powerful thing to do.
Wow. Yeah, amazing. I also feel yoga has helped me so much in that way of just being able to sit with one's pain and discomfort. And like even just doing this podcast, meeting so many people that have like what's really slingshotted them into like the inner work of like true sadhana and true yoga is some like deep pain or discomfort, friction, and it is also divine. Like whatever pushes us so far into despair, it's the same force, the same energy, the same whatever language you want to put on it, self, that pushes us into feeling joy and love and connection and all those things. Like but yet there is a moment, and I've seen like and heard so many people again and again, like actually I'm so thankful for this rock bottom or this pain that's shown me like the light on the other side of the darkness.
So beautifully put. And that is, one thing that I like to say as well, that, when you experience trauma, let's say grief, for example, you experience grief. I think that your spectrum of grief grows. So it's like as much grief you are able to experience, in the other side of the spectrum is as much joy you are able to experience as well.
I love that as well. I think of that like somehow, I don't know if I heard it somewhere or what, thought of it as like a pendulum swing.
Yeah.
Like we know in physics, like when like with equal or greater force,
Yeah.
it swings one way. So you swing this far into
Yeah.
grief and pain. With
Yeah.
equal or greater force, you swing into joy and clarity
Yeah.
and change and revelation and illumination. And it's like, even just knowing that is
It's
like put my like feet on the ground and say like, okay, I can take it, like
Yeah,
bring it on. If
exactly.
it's like, you know.
I remember when I got sent back home after living in a rehabilitation center for 3.5 months, where I learned how to use my bladder, bowel, sexuality, wheelchair, you name it. I lived there for 3.5 months, and then I went back home. And I remember the first time I went to the supermarket by myself in a wheelchair, and I bought myself 2 avocados to make a guacamole. I was the happiest, sorry, motherfucker on earth. And then I'm like, no, 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 this is not true. I just got 2 avocados. It's like, come on. And it's like before to experience that amount of joy, I needed to go on a massive holiday and create that huge thing. And I was always on the search, you were always on the, oh, that's not enough, you know. But when something is taken from you, you put so much value on those little things, which can sound as a cliche, but it lies there. The joy, the real joy it's within, is on those little things that you do with your day, that everyone talks about, but it's like we're not aware enough to experience those because you're always on the run, right? But if we do slow down, if we do invite the silence in, if we do practice mindfulness, yoga, they're there. They're right there. You can have a fulfilling life, and whatever body you have. It doesn't rely on external things. You do have everything that you need to.
And we can even like say in the greater sense, like whatever situation we have. I don't know if you've read that book, like you just made me think of it, Man's Search for Meaning.
No, I've heard.
There's this book that this man wrote who was a Holocaust survivor, and he was a psychiatrist, and he found meaning in his life living in the concentration camps. And he kind of like, it's a very good book. And it just made me think, like even in the most dire situations, we can hear or learn from those that have found deep purpose and meaning
Yeah.
in the most undesirable situations, or like you said, like in any body, in any place, like we have that power within us.
Yeah. At any time. And I like to think that yoga is like a guide back to it. It's like it's a tool that bring you back to that place, right? If you deepen yourself into the practice, because yoga has all the answers. I like to think that it's a way back home, right?
It's a way back home.
Yeah. And for someone who experienced trauma, this way back home should be accessible. I don't like to use this word should, but it's like here I'm gonna use it. Should be available to this population. One thing that I see as well is that we rely a lot on the medical model, which generally, treat us with opioids and antidepressants. So, like, I came out of the curve because, like, I was proactive and then I searched for it. But, like, 1 in 7 folks has a mobility disability these days. We are more than 1 billion. And then I ask you, how many folks you see practicing yoga out there in a wheelchair? Like, there's so much work to be done. There's so many things to be changed. Because we are not teaching something that will, make our students like another person or change them in some way. We're just guiding them through to what they already have. And to have access to this type of knowledge, to this type of practice, is one of the most beautiful things we can do. You know, not being pretentious that you can heal someone or you can change someone's life. No, we just be the bucket, and the yoga is like the water, like they say, right? You're just passing by. You're just giving them, and they take whatever is good for them.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect place for a bow on our
Wrap up.
conversation. So I've loved just being with you and getting to hear your story and your wisdom, and also Lua's here in the background, just giving us her good vibes. But I finish each episode with 3 quick questions. So quick question, quick answer. So the first one is, at this point in your spiritual journey, is there anything you're still curious about?
Oh, I am very curious about many things. And I think that is the mojo. That is what keeps us alive. And that's what keeps us young. You know. I think the day we lost curiosity about everything is the day we become old. Is the day we start going to the factory and take 20 days holiday paid every year. We gotta be curious. There's so much to study, so much to experience, so many people, so many cultures, so many arts. Curiosity is I think the key for fulfilling life.
I agree, definitely.
Yeah.
And next, a great Mahavakya or a great saying that inspires maybe your practice now or has inspired your practice for a long time.
This is something I took from Buddhism, and it's a mantra that I actually wrote. And when I came to this rehabilitation center, after just being told that I'm never going to walk again, there was this whiteboard, and I asked the nurse to write, "This is perfect," or "This is perfect," and I kept repeating myself. And sometimes when the blues shows up, or something that I expect to do doesn't go the way I would like, I just repeat myself, "This is perfect," or "This is perfect."
I love that. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, "This is perfect," or "This is perfect."
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And finally, if you had to sum up this conversation in one sentence.
Wow, I think was like a very enriching and inspiring conversation, and I really hope your community, the Curious Yoga community, get curious about adapting the practice, the offerings to everyone, to look beyond the normative body, the skinny girls, the namastes and the expensive leggings, the performatic, yoga that we are seeing out there, and open the heart and adapt the practice.
Definitely. And I will definitely put your adaptive yoga program in the show notes because there's listeners from all over the world. So that's the amazing thing. We're living digitally now. I know people can study with you live on Zoom, on demand. So there's so many ways to just get involved, follow you on Instagram, get on your newsletter, all the things. So I'm sure I'm gonna share everything so that people will take the action, and take the inspiration. And also for me, and I know Simon and I have had the conversation, okay, now we know Rodrigo, we gotta study, we gotta learn, we gotta do this, and so we're gonna be right there with the listeners. So let's do it. Like you said, there's so much change we have to do, and I've been so inspired from this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much.
So
Likewise.
thank you.
And thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah,
So,
it's been wonderful.
but I think it even I told you before we started recording, it's been almost 100 episodes, and never once has the topic of accessible yoga come up.
Yeah.
it makes me think, okay, like, you know, I try to be inclusive in other ways, but this, like you said, we have to address our own bias. So
Yeah.
it's been a kind of like, okay, girl, like, let's get some more. You know? So thanks for that.
And
you know, we sometimes like need to
we're here to help.
exactly. We need to meet the right person to be the mirror to be like, okay, like, we're gonna sneak a little there. So it's good. So thanks for being the first from Benny, and appreciate it. Appreciate you and welcoming me into your home. And you know, it's so nice to be connected now. We're in Malmö.
Yeah.
And lots of love.
Thanks so much. Plenty of love for you as well.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider supporting the show at patreon.com/acuriousyogi and please leave a review. It really helps the show reach more people. Let's stay curious, connected, and keep walking the path together. In total delight, this is Bobby signing off until next time.